welcome to the paranormal and metaphysical world of Twilight tonight. Host DeeDee Moonflyer grew up with very open-minded parents who had many experiences with UFOs and the paranormal. Because of her mom's insistence on exposing her to spiritual classes, meditation, and teachings of Edgar Cayce, DeeDee had a fascination and deep interest in the paranormal. Her own paranormal experiences have led her to seek out and interview other fascinating, knowledgeable people for better understanding of this phenomenon. Now, your host of Twilight Tonight, DeeDee Moonflyer.
Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome tonight. Of course, as always, most amazing guest on my podcast. And she has been on my own podcast, Twilight Tonic Paranormal Podcast. And I am so excited to have this lady on here. It is Friday and it's time for a cocktail with one of my favorite gals, Julia Halina Hadas. Come on out, girl.
Hi there, DeeDee. Thank you for having me. Oh my God, what drink is that?
Aviation.
Oh, I love it. Nostrovia.
Yum. So, Julia, you have 3 amazing books out. And of course, I have 2 right here. I have the Moon Magic Mixology, which is beautiful, if everyone can see this, full of amazing recipes. And she has non-alcoholic recipes in here as well. And all of these recipes are amazing. They go around like your birth sign, the moon, medicinal and magical properties. And then her most recent book that I've been reading is Martin Witchcraft and a book of astrology. I love it. It was a gift from Julia. And she has one more book out. You can get these all on Amazon. They're called Witch Mixology. How are you tonight, Julia?
Good. I'm just so excited to chat again. I had so much fun on your podcast, and this show is just amazing. I've never experienced anything like this, so that's cool.
Yeah, I haven't been on here very long, poor Todd, but it is a lot of fun, and it's nice to see my guest face to face.
Yeah, I know, because I've talked with you before, so it's great to actually talk in like virtually.
I know. Well, beautiful young lady, tell me how you got started with all of this really cool culinary mixology books.
Yeah, and I'll have to say, my first book, WitchCraft Cocktails, I need to get it sent to you. I didn't realize you didn't have it, so I'll be sure that they send that to you so you can have all 3. But yeah, so I think like most people in my background, kind of going against the grain of family, interested in paranormal, metaphysics, spirituality, witchcraft, and all of that. And so pretty young, I ended up, researching into that and worked at a witch shop for years and pursued that. But then when I turned 21, I decided to experiment with bartending, and I was kind of energy worker by day, doing tarot and stuff. It was just a lot of fun. And then at night, I was doing bartending. And of course, at the time, it was like, I wouldn't really talk about it with people that I do energy work with, because how do you intertwine those things? But for me, mixology and spirituality are entwined. The root of mixology is connected to spirituality, and especially working from a witchcraft background, when I got into bartending, I was like, well, why wouldn't I put all the herbs or ingredients that I use for abundance or for love? Why wouldn't I put that into a cocktail when we have a plethora of liqueurs, bitters, different types of alcohols, or even if you're making it non-alcoholic, making a syrup and using fresh ingredients. So that was kind of how I started. I started my blog, and I wasn't sure if people were really into it, but it turned into my first book, and now it's a really popular thing. So it's been an exciting journey.
I really love looking at some of these pictures that you do. Some of them are absolutely so magical looking. I want to jump in the page and have one.
Yeah,
Now,
they did a great job with the photography. I didn't take the photos in the book, unfortunately, but on my blog I did, but not these ones.
do you serve these where you work?
Yeah, so actually, with my Witchcraft Cocktails book, oh my God, I wonder if I have it with me somewhere. One second. No, I don't. It's tucked away. I just moved. Actually, I moved like 2 months ago, but when you're moving, honestly, it takes forever to unpack. So there's still a few things, but I had like a few notebooks where like I actually wrote like witchcraft cocktails on it while I was bartending, and I would come up with these recipes for, of course, guests that come in that were excited about the idea, and I would make them these magical recipes. And so I would write everything down in my little notebook. I'd create infusions. I did one bar I worked at let me do my own weekend specials because I was lead bartender. And so I would put together these astrological or metaphysical themed drinks, and we would bring in a tarot reader. And so I would serve the drinks for that weekend, and we would have a reader come in at the same time. So it was really fun. And so I wrote all those recipes down, and a lot of those transformed into the recipes that I have in my books, on my blog, and obviously some are newer. It takes a lot of experimentation, but it's endless creativity, and also creating something that tastes good and makes you feel amazing because it's intentionally created. Just a different experience, a different level. So yeah.
I love anything floral in my, I'm a big gin fan. My two
Yes.
drinks a week are always gin.
Mhm.
And I have a question for you. I love violets, and I love elderberry and all of those flower essences. So if I have an aviation, which you know very well because I like violet,
Yes.
what would be the magical properties of violet?
Yeah. Well, also, like, if you like those things together, I mean, oh God, like I have a couple of recipes already, but I mean, when elderberry has like a really, I'm not very always good at describing, but has a much richer and bolder, perhaps, flavor. I think it's a berry flavor. But if you were okay with elderflower, you could put a couple drops of, rose water in your aviation, and maybe subtract a little bit more of some sweet ingredient in the aviation and add a little bit of elderflower liqueur. Oh God, even like some rosemary in there would just complement that really well. So when you
Mm.
say that, I'm like, if you like a floral drink, like that might be worth, or there's even rose liqueur, but that could be a way that you could have like a beautiful springtime, beauty, hope, spiritual beauty, hope. But yeah, for an aviation, so looking at the ingredients of that, we have gin. And so the main defining ingredient for something to be called a gin, juniper has to be involved at some point in the process. And juniper is really great for cleansing energy. It does wonderful multiple things, but that's kind of the main theme. And it's also great for like this time of year for those of us in the northern hemisphere, that kind of cleansing. It's also got that rejuvenating your spirit, because it's a very spiritual ingredient. And so when you add in violet flowers pop in, if you're somewhere where it snows, which I'm not, but and when they pop up is when like there's still like, it's just bringing the coming of spring. It's a symbol of hope and spirituality, and in this feminine energy. And so with those ingredients in there, and if you were to add the rose, rose, you think of beauty, but also it's also about spirituality in the same way of connecting to like being in love with life and the spiritual energy of life and healing. So that would be just a great drink for tuning into spiritual energies, especially with the Libra moon that we just had. If you, it's also great for peace, and great for cleansing spirituality. And also if you're adding those other ingredients, it'd be perfect for spring. So like that's right in tune, I think, with the vibe we're coming from, coming off of a full Libra moon.
Woo, yeah, that moon was something else.
There's so much going on. Like I was even looking ahead at like, the Mercury retrograde with eclipse season, and I'm like, oh my God, like the time to prepare is now before, because when you're caught off guard about these things, they hit you so much harder. But
I'm
when you're
prepared.
prepared, yeah, you got a cocktail. That's perfect.
So, hello, Maggie. My bird will make noise.
Oh, you have a bird?
Yeah, she's up here. Come here, Max. Come say hi. Come on. Oh, no, she's just going to look at me. She's an
That's
Amazon.
totally. Oh, I love it. Yeah, I actually just came from living with an African gray parrot.
I love.
So yeah, this one was definitely a character. I didn't even, it was our housemates because we had gotten a big house for a while. And so until we moved into our current apartment, we were sharing space in that bigger place. And that parrot, like, I didn't even realize how well you can hear them. You can hear them from outside. They're so
Oh,
loud.
yeah. Oh, yeah, she's loud. And she's talking tonight, so we'll probably hear her.
I love it. I was curious. I was like, oh, is there a kid there? But it's bird.
My
Oh.
favorite thing is once a week, if I interview men, she'll be like, I love you. And I'm like, that wasn't me. I don't have a ghost in the house. It's my bird. So,
Oh, that's so funny. Oh my God. She knows her timing.
Yes. I keep telling my husband, because he loves to make drinks. That's his hobby now. And I said, you need to make an Amazon parrot drink.
Yes.
Yeah,
oh my God.
all those layers. Spicy,
Yeah.
jalapeno, pineapple.
Yeah.
So my next question for you, I know I'm a gin girl, but there's whiskey drinkers. What would you say about whiskey drinkers?
Yeah.
Medicinal purposes behind that.
Yeah. And so just getting in, whenever I look, part of this is because beyond being a bartender, I actually worked at a distillery for a year, for a while, for like a year and a half, and that was my main job during the day for the weekends. And so working, oh, you might hear some alarms. I hope you don't hear that. Sorry. Just in case you hear these like little alarms, I guess like the police just drove by or something. But yeah, so when looking at the properties of these different base spirits, you have to look at how they're made. And there's several layers in the process of distillation, fermentation, and also the base ingredients that are used. Are they aged? And so I take all of those things into consideration and looking at, the folklore and the history and the magical associations of those ingredients. So when you look at whiskeys, it's a grain base. If it's bourbon, it's got to be at least 51, 52% corn mash, but no matter what, the base root of whiskey is grain. And when you think of grain, there's that symbolism of seeds of the future, but it's a symbol of the past. That's how a lot of our ancestors, they would preserve grain throughout, the winter time. And it also, comes from harvesting the fields before the coming of winter. And so you can kind of look at all those properties of connecting to the earth, that ancestry, and also the seeds of the future. And then a lot of times these, especially whiskeys, are aged in oak barrels. And so oak is really great for strength and protection and all of that. And so when I work with whiskey, there's a few layers. There's abundance. It's really great for abundance, but it's also really grounding. And I also like to work with it on some layer for ancestral, patterns and things like that. Because I also do energy work. So being conscious of those patterns. Although, of course, my family is from Poland. So another ancestral drink is vodka. I have to say the stereotype is very true. But yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So that's, and integrating that into your drinks. I mean, an old fashioned, but there's like my favorite old fashioned. It's like this tree flavors. I have it on my blog, so it's not in any of my books, but it's you've got bourbon, you have maple syrup instead of simple syrup. So you don't have to make anything extra there. Delicious. It's got that nice subtly sweetness. Obviously, depending on your maple syrup, if it's sweeter, you'd use a little less. It's got black walnut bitters, so that extra additional like grounding, but also walnut has a little bit of that mentally stimulating energy. And then a little bit of hazelnut liqueur. I don't use a cream hazelnut liqueur. I use like a hazelnut liqueur, but some people have done it with cream in it, hazelnut cream liqueur, and it's worked out. But that's like a great, drink to tap into that grounding, but also that creative, nurturing energy of whiskey and incorporating the oak with the maple, with the walnut, with the hazelnut, all the little trees and oak flavors. So yeah.
Very warming. It sounds
yes.
like a very warming drink.
Yeah, and everyone loves it. I mean, to be honest, like it's so easy to make. The ingredients sound a little peculiar, but honestly, if you just take a more than a 5-minute look down an aisle at Total Wine or Bevmo or whatever store you've got for liquor, usually black walnut bitters are there. Usually the hazelnut liqueur is there as well. So once you have those ingredients, you can make this drink like that. It's so easy. And that's what I also like too. You're making a drink on the fly. You know, if you have guests over, it's nice to have something that,
Yeah.
for me, because I make a lot of delicious drinks, whenever people come over, I end up in the bar the entire time. I don't get to enjoy myself. So that's like my go-to for preparing something magical, delicious, charming, but also, you know, it's very quick. So I don't have to spend the entire night behind the
Yeah.
bar in the kitchen. Yeah.
So you mentioned vodka, and I'm not sure. I could be totally wrong about this. Is that from potatoes?
No, it's not. So the distillery I worked at was a vodka distillery.
Okay.
And on that note, I should say, you know, there's different stills. There's stills are made out of different metals, and so when you consider that flavor, actually, that contributes in the process, because there's even clay, you know, stills. They'll use it a lot of time for mezcal. But vodka can be made from any substance, any organic substance, but it has to be brought to such a high proof, and then, you know, brought to a high proof to make it what they can call neutral. Although anyone who's tasted multiple vodkas knows that they're not 100%. They're more neutral compared to something like whiskey or dark rum, but they do have different flavor distinctions based off of the creation process and what they're made out of. But they're more neutral than those bolder flavors. And then it's cut with water. So whatever water is added adds, you know, different flavors and whatnot as well. And so that's why with vodka, you know, part of it is looking at what base ingredient is used if you're looking at the energetic properties of that. So, you know, if you can find information on that, that's great. A lot of times it will be a grain of some kind or potato, but other things have been used. I have had a vodka that was made from strawberries. And that
Wow.
definitely, yeah, I know. Cool, right? It's out of stock now though, which I was
Oh,
bummed about.
you got me curious now.
I know.
Strawberries.
I still, actually, no, I think we ended up finishing the bottle because once you open a bottle of alcohol, it only lasts so many years. You know, it does
Right.
oxidize. But you know, if you can find the base ingredient, but in general, vodka, because it's brought to such, you know, a high proof, it's something I like to work with for enhancing the flavors that are already present. You know, so not adding any other bolder flavors. So, you know, it works well in, you know, in flavor balance, but also energetically, you know, for clearing. And also, you know, vodka has a beautiful history because, like, my family is from Poland, right? And so
Uh-huh.
vodka, the word vodka comes from water of life, you know, and it was originally made likely from rye because rye would survive the winters in Slavic countries. And so, you know, in Polish, the word for water is wodę, you know, and so vodka, like you can hear it, you know, it's very
Yeah.
similar, right? And so it's a spiritual drink that, you know, people will use to connect to that life essence, you know, that strengthening through those hardships. So vodka can depend on what it's made out of, but generally I like to use it for kind of that strengthening, to enhance the flavors or energies that are already present, for, you know, holding on to the
Mhm.
energies, like for infusions and for, you know, clarity and cleansing and stuff like that. So yeah.
You know, I find it super interesting, especially in paganism. We celebrate, you know, several things. And one of the liquors we use, or wines that we use, is mead.
Yeah, yeah.
I
And when
love mead because some of them, everybody always thinks it's super sweet. Not all of them are super sweet. They're delightful, actually. And
yeah,
tell people about some history of mead and why
yeah.
you use it.
I love this because I actually just recently did a blog on mead. I put a lot of effort into my blog. So when I say recently,
Yeah.
like it was actually a couple months ago, but like to me it feels recent because like it took me weeks. You know, it was like a 2-part blog where I actually did a mead cocktail, which was just delicious. But yeah,
Ooh,
mead is so diverse. And I have to say, like in the bartending industry, realistically, mead is not given a lot of attention. Not a lot of
right.
bars carry mead. I'm sure that more and more are, because a lot of craft and meaderies have grown in popularity and they're building awareness. But it's not something that people typically run into in the most common bars, and hopefully that will change. But mead is like so magical because it comes from honey, right? And so to a lot of ancient cultures, like the Vikings, or that would, even various cultures used honey, but when they turned it into to ferment it, or they would infuse it with other ingredients and ferment that, honey is sacred. It's tied to their worship. It was associated with different deities, was healing, so many amazing properties. And so mead was such a sacred drink. And obviously Vikings are known for that, but a lot of different cultures had, their mead, different mead like processes, or even just sweetening wine with honey. And yeah, like using it today, like a lot of people do think it's sweet, and I can see why that is. And there are certain meads that are sweet, but that's not a bad thing. That just means that you need to know when and how to drink it, right? I mean, like
Right.
to me, it's not the same thing as champagne, perhaps, but like I drink it in a similar way. I drink it after a meal, for a celebration, as a little, dessert type drink. But that depends on the mead. So there's lots of meads. Like I had a cranberry mead from Moonlight Meadery. And wow, it was amazing. It was tart, and I almost felt like, oh God, why am I putting this in a cocktail? Like, but of course I put it into a cocktail because it's good on
Yeah.
its own. But when you mix it with the ingredients, I mean, cranberry and apple is already a killer flavor ingredient, right? Like
Yeah.
combo. So I made this cranberry, used the cranberry mead in a cocktail with apple brandy, a couple of spices. So I think there's both cardamom and cinnamon. So this was a very like sensual type of drink, but also has a lot of Capricorn because it was for the Capricorn moon, type flavors in there. And so, I mean, mead is so, I love it. Every alcoholic substance, or even non-alcoholic substance, has so many different applications in cocktails. And when you look at the magical properties of honey, that's used for sweetening people up to us, in magic, for like honey jars, for healing, for connecting to deity in some kind of way. It's just using that intentionally, pairing it with your meals or adding it to a cocktail. It's just adds such an energetic oomph, and it's honestly like hard to stop drinking it, because it's just,
Right.
that's what it is. It's got that energy of sweetening, and you just want to drink more. So
Yeah, it's one of those things, it just elevates your celebration.
yeah.
It's so, especially during a summer solstice. I just love
Yeah.
to drink it then. It just, for some reason, it just makes me feel happy and warm and joyful.
Yes. Yeah. And you know what? I'm glad that you said that, because that makes me think too of like, I mean, the bees being out and about at the time, summer, when the flower, I mean, I guess it depends on where you live, of how hot it is. But
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I always forget the weather's different everywhere. But I'm used to, not super hot summers. And so you'll see bees like working throughout the day. Yeah, that sounds like a perfect summer solstice drink, especially with elderflower liqueur. And it makes me think of another recipe, because I do have another mead, that the other one was a cranberry mead, but this is just, a more classic honey with actually, or a mead with ginger too. It's got some ginger and vanilla in there. And I think that if I could mix that with elderflower and some other brightening flavors, it would make a perfect summer solstice cocktail. But I think what's easier about ingredients like mead, wine, and beer
Mhm.
is they're perfect for celebrations because it's so easy to remember. I don't know, for me, or like I feel like a lot of people, we sometimes think we need validation in our practices until we get to a certain point. And when you remember that people thousands of years ago enjoyed the same type of substance you're enjoying now, it's easier to like be like, oh yes, this is a spiritual thing. There are intentions and energy here, because a lot of times I feel like alcohol has become separated from its roots. But even distilled spirits, I mean, we have alchemists to thank for the stills that we use for distillation. So it's all
Yeah.
connected. And even bitters come from, healers, folk healers
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And herbal liqueurs, to this day, green chartreuse is made by monks in the French Alps. I always say that. I'm sure anyone who listens to me a lot probably gets tired of me saying that, but it's a great example that alcohol is deeply connected to spirituality and its roots.
Yes. And the interesting thing is too, in your books, you not only do alcohol, you do non-alcoholic mixed drinks.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, I'm also, someone who works in the food and bev industry, right? And so I love flavor combinations and also when you tune into the energy of those things, but that's not something that has to be exclusive to alcohol. I will say I wanted to put more non-alcoholic versions in there because realistically to me, when I'm behind the bar, or when I was behind the bar, because now no one could pay me to make them a vodka cranberry. I just don't find that satisfying. If they wanted me to make a spiritual drink, or like I'll make drinks up for people on the fly. I love that. But the reality is most bars I work at want me to make just classic, vodka cranberry, vodka soda. And I'm like, okay. But anyway, I went off a tangent there. Oh yeah. Whenever someone comes in and they want a non-alcoholic version, I actually love that because that allows for a lot of creativity. And how do we translate the flavors and the energy into something that's non-alcoholic? And it is relatively simple because really, when it comes to the majority of cocktails, unless they're purely alcoholic, in which case nowadays there's all of these non-alcoholic spirits coming out. I haven't tried them yet, but it may be possible to create a non-alcoholic old-fashioned, depending on what's out there. I didn't think that was possible before, but who knows now. But with most other cocktails, really it's about the acid to sugar ratio. So your acid being lemon lime and your sweetener. And so when you make a non-alcoholic version, you remove the alcohol, you might replace that with soda water, tonic water, or ginger beer or something else. And then you want to maybe make it just a little bit sweeter or less so. So it's really simple. You can take a lot of exciting cocktails and look at the flavors and just look at what's the non-alcoholic replacement for that. If it's triple sec, try orange juice, or you can try an orange flavored seltzer, or something like that. Right. And so you can get so close in flavor and energy, and it's just as magical because it has those same ingredients. It's just being intentional about what it is that the ingredients are, what you put into your body. And then when you think of the substance of a drink, I'm so sorry for going off on tangents. I just get so excited.
Okay. You're fine.
Yeah,
you really
okay.
Are.
When you think of the symbolism of a cup, a cup is a container. It's a symbol for what you hold in your life and also what you choose to bring into your life. And you sip it, you bring it into your body. If there's alcohol, it's going to enter into your bloodstream pretty quickly, right? But what you ingest, your cells break down in some way or another. And so when it's charged with intention, you can really feel the energy. You can feel the difference. As many people who get drinks from me know how different my cocktails taste, or if I guide them through making a cocktail, some of the best drinks I've ever made because they're putting a drink together themselves that's with intention, flavor combinations and energy. And your body breaks that down, and it's like just the symbolism of drinking that sacred liquid, that spiritual energy. So I'm a big fan of it. It's just engaging with it in intentional and ethical ways. Of course, I'm not advocating for people to get blackout drunk every night, but
right. No, absolutely no. And,
yeah.
That's a different subject too. You can abuse anything, and using alcohol is extremely dangerous and destructive. That's why I have 2 lovely drinks on the weekends, and that's my limit. So, Julia, we're going to be right back. We're going to have a commercial break, and then we'll talk a little bit about astrology in drinks.
Cool. I love it.
We'll be right back, guys.
Get the app that everyone's talking about. The WLTK-DB Talk Radio app. Watch your favorite live shows. Listen to past ones. And best of all, shop. Visit the App Store and Google Play to download yours free right now.
Sure.
Welcome back.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, okay, that's cool.
Now, Julia, and this book particularly, this is like, I love this book. It's so beautifully done.
Yay.
And this is awesome too, guys. But in here, you do drinks due to like people's astrology.
Yeah.
Could you go
Yeah.
over that a little bit with some of the astrology?
Yeah. And I love that too. I have to say, like, that book, I need to put more effort into promoting that book. You've known me for like what, a year and a half now or
Yeah.
something. I've just moved so many times and now I'm settled in a place. You know, I would love to promote this book more because I really put a lot into it. Whenever I do work, I want to create something that is accessible but also flexible so people can make
Right.
things work for themselves, because everyone's flavor preferences is unique. Everyone's experience with magic, astrology, whatever it is also really unique. And so making something that people can change up for them. And so in this book, I cover a lot of different things. I cover, the meanings of the different phases of the moon according to different beliefs and practices, the moon in different signs, and then also getting into, some drink recipes, of course. And so really there's a combination that comes to working with alcohol and astrology, and part of that is there are certain ingredients that are associated with different planets, different signs, different types of energy. So every ingredient has an association for an element, and for astrological energy. And you can even think of it, people would charge oftentimes in witchcraft, make magical waters that are infused with astrological energy. So this isn't, so applying that to drinks is putting together these magical concoctions and looking at it from different layers of what is the meaning of the moon in Aries or the moon in Libra, and what is a cocktail that matches that energy, while also looking at what are the ingredients associated with that planet or celestial body and with that sign. And then, I have to say honestly, putting all those flavors together is not a process I recommend for everyone, because it's a lot of work. I end up having to jar up a lot of cocktails because if I drank all of that, I would be wasted and probably not be efficient. And so it's a delicate balance on every level, from also the energy of the drink, but also making sure it tastes good. And so you can get all kinds of just magical cocktails. I think, speaking of violet, there is a recipe in there for violet liqueur and homemade violet liqueur. Now, the only thing is that you have to be able to find dried violets. At the time that I wrote the book, up until then, I had an easy time finding dried violets inexpensively online. Since I've looked recently, they're a lot more expensive to get. So not sure what happened there, but if you have access to violets, fresh or dried, this is a gin-based violet liqueur and it is delicious. But that was to connect to the spirituality and hopeful energy of, like, the moon and kind of rebirth energy coming into spring. There's also a color changing syrup in there for working with the
Oh yeah, I
transformative
love that.
energy of the moon. Yeah, butterfly pea flower, it's growing in popularity, although not everyone knows about it, and working with it in its color changing aspects. What's more magical than that, like in visual appeal, but also in symbolism of transforming,
Is
changing
that
our
called
colors.
the Luna? What
Oh,
is
no,
that
that
called?
is the lunar transformation syrup. Yeah.
I love that stuff.
Yeah, and it's delicious syrup. Honestly, you could probably add it to anything. I mean, talking about mocktails, really all you need to do is add your citric acid to that, if it's lemon or lime, and really you're kind of good to go because that syrup is so delicious. It's got
Yes.
vanilla, it's got lavender, and it's good. It's meant for, transforming through peace. So it is totally possible to make these drinks aligned to energy. And especially, again, when you think of the moon is associated with water, right? The moon we have to thank for multiple things. We have it to thank for the evolution of life, is a certain hypothesis that exists, because the moon influences the tides. And so through influencing the tides to interact more, then it would help stimulate, the evolution of, but you can see the sea life, right? The sea life's life cycles depend on the moon cycles as well because of the influence on the tides. And the moon also helps balance our wobble. I'm so sorry. I'm such a nerd. I'm like, people probably don't understand what I'm talking about. But the Earth actually has a wobble. So the positions of our equinoxes and solstices, they actually change over
Yeah.
a 26,000 year cycle. And so the moon helps balance the wobble that we do have on Earth, or else it would be a little more wild. And so it's so connected to the nurturing energy. It's associated with, water too, and creating a beverage. Like when you think of mead, how that's connected to moon, or like you think of moonshine, moonshiners, all of that stuff. It has associations, like even the life cycle of agriculture and harvesting grapes for wine with the moon cycle. So translating that into a aligned cocktail to tune into that astrological energy, whether just drinking a aligned cocktail to connect to that energy or to
Hey,
influence you to do spell work or whatever it is, it's really powerful, and I love it.
so let's say you're making cocktails for water signs. Which
Mhm.
cocktail would you recommend for them?
Oh, well, definitely butterfly pea flower type stuff, because I mean that has the energy too of water. It's associated with water and stuff like that. And it's got that beautiful blue color. So if you're wanting a
Yeah.
way, until you add acid, once you add the acid, then it turns pink. But most water signs love that. So and I actually have like a couple. When you say that, immediately I think of sometimes I can't remember the names of the cocktails, because honestly, when I'm working on them, they just have scratch names, and some of them, the scratch names accidentally come through.
Sure.
Like what was it? The DreamWork aviation riff in my first book, which is like I need to get you my first book, because there's an aviation. It's gin infused with
Ooh.
jasmine. That's another Pisces type drink. So that you've got that in there. That was the scratch name that I forgot to change before it was published. So I forget the names sometimes of the drinks, but there's like this beautiful moon milk tea punch. Oh my
Oh
God. Let me see if
yeah,
I can find
that
it.
looks gorgeous. I do want to try
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Let me show right here. Um, It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And so it's got that butterfly pea flower in there, which is great for working with, water types energy, because water signs are spiritual, right?
Very,
They are
yeah.
connected, the element of water in astrology is associated with the soul, it's associated with emotions. But when we say emotions, I feel like people tend to categorize that. The reality is that emotions are psychic. Emotions are also connected
Very,
to being in tune with nurturing energy. So they're a way to navigate through life, in terms of your emotions can give you signs of if you're connected or not. They're not invalid. And so when we say that water's connected to your sense of feeling, it's psychic feeling. It's also emotional feeling, which tells you how you feel about how you're going about in life right now. And so drinks that are kind of go with the flow, but also not fun, but not afraid to go deep into that realm. And so with the violet flower, with the butterfly pea flower in this, it's perfect for connecting to that, transformative water energy, the spirituality, the psychic nature, the ability to swim with the currents and change with that. It's got lavender for peace. Um, you know, uh, Rose water, that's great. And also vanilla. There's lots of other ingredients and different ways to combine it. Let me go check my astrology book though, because I have a list. It's hard to memorize all this stuff on the fly, because every sign, every element, every planet, I mean, everything has an association. But I have in my third book, which is the astrology book, I have an appendix in the back that talks about, and the thing I should say with this, even though the third book is a spell book, there are a couple of drink recipes in here, but they're spells to work with cosmic energy in useful ways. I wrote it from the perspective of I am a kitchen witch. So basically every ingredient in here is stuff you can use in bartending unless it's toxic, but I don't remember putting a lot of toxic stuff in there. You can basically buy it at a grocery store. So for water, and you can see here like kind of the appendix section of the different elements. And so, yeah, anise, You can work with, oh yeah, coconut. That's a fun one for sure. And that's perfect for connecting to the moon, but also to that watery energy. Jasmine, lemon. Lemon's really cleansing, and also associated with the moon. So a lot of those types of things that go on with that theme.
Fire signs. What do you do with us?
Okay, well, fire signs have a fun element. So already with water signs, you know, a cocktail, a drink, you already got the physical representation of water in there. If you can make it blue, bonus. But fire signs I love because that's when I get to throw in my bartending tricks, because you can do fire tricks. And so a lot of my fire type cocktails, I suggest people watch a video of this before they do it, because
Oh, yes,
I'm
please.
yeah, I'm a professional. I know how to do this. But essentially, you cut the peel of a citrus, and you see the outside colored rind where it has all the pores. You take a match, put it over your drink above, like not in and out, especially not if you've got like 151 in there, you know. Definitely not something that high proof, but you can just hover it above the match, and then you take your peel with that rind with the pores facing out. Again, everyone, fire safety. I'm not suggesting you do this, leave it professionals, but you know, you can watch this and have fun with it at home if you are safe. And you squeeze the peel, and all of the essential oils from the peel shoot out onto the flame after it's warmed a little bit, and you get this gorgeous flame rising up. And it's just a great, it's an easy trick to do. Again, watch a video. I have a few videos on my Instagram of me doing it, but it's a way to add fire. But stuff like cinnamon, clove, you know, a lot of those
Oh, I
warming
love those.
spices. Yes. Let me see what else here. Yeah, allspice. I'm so sorry. My like clove and cinnamon are just so
Yeah.
delicious.
Yes, I like
um,
them very much. I like them
yeah,
in my
we're
cookies. I like them in my
yes.
drinks, in my tea.
And working with citrus like lime and orange, obviously, or like
Mhm.
you even have like, you know, triple sec, adding that in there. Coffee cocktails, walnut can be
I love
really great. Saffron infusions, whether it's a saffron type syrup or infusing saffron into alcohol. Ginger, that's a really great one to add that like fiery, energizing. So those are some of my definitely my favorite ingredients to work with, and I might be biased because I am a fire sign. So and these are all just
What are you,
yummy.
Leo?
I am a Leo, yes. Did you like just guess that, or like
I kind of picked up on that. I'm a Sag.
ah, oh, I love it. So you understand. That's why we like the fire sign flavors. Like, oh, these are so delicious.
I know. I'm like
um
sitting here, like, oh, cinnamon, ginger,
yes.
yeah.
Especially you said clove. Like clove is great for working with Jupiter, which you know rules Sagittarius, as you know. So that's one of my favorite ingredients to work with for Sagittarius energy. So that's that's
Orange and
perfect.
clove is one of my favorite smells.
Oh, you know, I have this cocktail. I'm gonna have to see if I can dig up for you. I actually did it for an article, but it is based off of the pomander balls. You know, where you stick cloves
Yeah.
into orange. So it's an orange and
Yeah.
clove cocktail, delicious. And the photo that
Oh,
I took of that, yeah, I have to send that to you because you'd probably like it. It's like perfect for Sagittarius energy.
God, I love orange and clove. Earth
Yeah.
signs. That's
Yes,
my
earth
heaven.
signs. So on one hand, with earth, depending on the person's flavor preferences, uh, if we want to work with the most literal embodiment of that, integrating salt in some way, so you can do
Mhm.
black salt, um, you know, and that creates this nice grounding, protective rim. But that way, you have like that physical representation of earth right there, obviously beyond the ingredients that are already, you know, in a cocktail. As far as herbs, all herbs are related to the earth
Yeah.
in some way, right? But things like a beet. So there's actually, oh my God, I suggest you try this cocktail from the Moon Magic mixology. I can't remember, but there's a beet cocktail. I think it was like a pink potion, pink
Oh,
moon
yes. It
potion.
is pink.
Yeah. That I put beet in because it was connecting to the kind of the earth element energy for the sign. So beets are great to work with, and they add, you know, that pink flavor. Of course, you want to be intentional about how you incorporate that, because beets can be a very opinionated flavor, but you mix it in with something like apple. I think, or, Aperol would be great to mix that with. So those are some great ones. So maple syrup, it has
Oh
that
yeah.
nice, subtly sweet. When you think of Taurus, which is Taurus is ruled by Venus, but like it has, that earth, but also that sweetness, that kind of luxurious, but not overly sweet. You can think of like the earth, ground. You can talk about wheat, grain, whiskey, things like that.
Yeah.
I should say for fire signs. And I think you can apply all of these alcohols really to any sign, but for fire signs, if I'm really wanting a fiery cocktail, tequila is the way to go, or mezcal, because it's made from the agave plant, which is associated with the planet Mars, and it is also associated with the element of fire. And agave, it relates to the energy of sensuality, kind of this energizing, motivating, and it's one of my favorites to drink, honestly, because it's one of the alcohols I can drink and it doesn't drain. I shouldn't say drain, but like if I'm drinking a vodka soda or a tequila soda kind of gives me energy all night.
Tequila makes
If I'm
me ornery. It's probably the Indian in me.
oh yeah, so that one's great for connecting to fire energy. And I guess you're gonna ask about air next.
That's my rising sign is Aquarius.
Oh,
Air.
oh my God! No wonder I'm Aquarius rising too.
Yeah, it's like
Well, just
taking fire, and when more fire it up, it's like.
I love it because for me, like the Aquarius rising, like I'm someone who hates labels. I love to just go with the flow. I don't like it when people put me in boxes.
Hey, exactly.
You know what I mean? Because I like being able to. I'm someone who likes. I'm spiritual, and you're spiritual too, right? And so I love him transforming with life, and not sitting still per se of, fixed, being stubborn or anything. And so when people put me in a box or label me a certain way, it's always hard for me. So that's the Aquarius in me, is like, don't label me any specific way.
I don't like that either.
Yeah, that's funny. But working with the air element, you can think about things like mint, right? So things that refresh, cleanse the mind, right? So a lot of these ingredients go multiple ways. You can there's different magical associations with herbs, and sometimes a certain astrology paths will have different associations. So it's kind of mixing and matching according to what's the association, but also what is the energy that you're going for. And it's like rosemary is literally been shown to help with the mind on so many different levels. So an air is associated with communication, intelligence, things like that. So air is, rosemary can be great for that, but also its name comes from being by the Mediterranean Sea. It comes from Rosmarinus. I'm probably butchering that pronunciation, but it grew by the Mediterranean Sea. And so when I connect to that, I can also use it in a watery way. But yeah, so mints, peppermint specifically, if you can. Lavender too, is great, especially working with Mercury retrograde, which we're going into, peace of mind, clear communication there. Caraway can be great, and obviously that you get creative in integrating some of those flavors into cocktail, but it is possible. Almond, I have a couple of almond cocktails, like an amaretto sour that I do with that. Oh my God. And yeah, I have that's actually in the Moon Magic mixology, the amaretto sour, and then you can add some lavender in there. Oh, great. The only thing is the amaretto sour, it depends on the amaretto you have. If it's way too sweet, like an artificial cheaper amaretto, no judgment there, but you need to balance out the sweetness of that one. But yeah. Oh no, it's frozen.
Looking for a holistic solution? Look no further than LinestreetWellness.com. Lime Street Wellness is a full-service Reiki therapy center offering in-person and distant Reiki sessions. Additionally, Lime Street Wellness is committed to helping clients co-create healthier outcomes with hypnosis, QHHT, and intuitive advice. Lime Street Wellness is committed to helping all that are seeking to co-create better health, peace of mind, and greater freedom. Reiki Master Kevin Mackey uses energy medicine, hypnosis, mindfulness, and intuitive guidance to assist in uncovering, understanding, and removing any blocks or energy cords or mental mindsets that may be intruding and causing needless suffering. Visit Lime Street Wellness today at limestreetwellness.com. That's limestreetwellness.com.
Sorry, guys. I don't know what happened. My internet just went poof. I was like, what?
Usually it's me, so I was like, oh no, like, am I,
Like, where'd she go?
Oh my God.
So sorry. So we were with Air, and
Oh,
you were
yes.
talking about all of the herbs and
Yeah. And another ingredient, and I forgot to mention, because I was like popping in my mind, oh, I should mention this. I like to work with anise as well for air. I use it for both air and water, depending on the purpose of that, but it can be great for air for cleansing the mind to more spiritual purposes. So anyway, just to add that in, but a lot of them can be applied different ways. So it's about taking into account the flavor, how something makes you feel, and also the energy as well.
Have you ever thought about making cocktails toward the maiden, mother, and crown?
Yeah, you know what? That is a great idea, and I should do that. I don't know why I haven't already. I've done certain things like on my blog. I'm Polish, and so I have a makosh cocktail on there for the Slavic goddess of moisture. Um,
Mhm.
In Polish, when something's wet, we say mokre. So, Makosh is a Slavic goddess for, it's kind of weird just to hear of a goddess of moisture, but it's very like, an important concept.
Yes.
And so, I should definitely do a full thing of, the maiden, mother, and crown. Like I can already see obviously the crown being with sage and a black salt, most definitely. Like a black salt rim for, just that the good boundaries. I don't know.
I'm a crown, I can tell you.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I hate those like kind of stereotypes with like it's not stereotypes, but like sometimes people take those things to the extreme and apply it to ageism. So, but like there's power in that symbolism of that energy, and like with the crone, a lot of times you can connect to Hecate, and so kind of
Yes.
that in the knowing your full power, you know what I mean?
Yes, exactly.
Embodying that and having good boundaries and not being afraid of your power and speaking your mind. So I'm already like thinking it'll be easy to do something, for the maiden, the springtime energy, maybe something apple for the mother for being able to figuratively, not literally, being
Right.
able to give birth to certain things and nurture. But definitely the crone would be like fun. I really like that idea. That's
I
great.
like the whole thing. Well, the moon, the magic and mixology reminds me of like the goddesses as well.
Yes.
I
This
mean,
is such a great idea. You're
what a
smart. I'm like, we need to talk more often about these things because I'm like, I have to do this now.
it's such a beautiful balance. And I think when you realize drink and food have gone with ceremonies for thousands and thousands of years. I'm a cook, I love to be in the kitchen. I feel like
Yes.
food and drink, what you put into it affects the mood of the people that eat it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just science.
I
That's
mean,
a fact.
I noticed
Yeah.
when I was in a bad mood, when I was a pastry chef, I'd be making something and it always came out bad. If I was in how
Yeah.
fire signs are when we're in that mood, man. It's like we spit the sea.
Yeah, I have to say, like, I'm often a very positive person, but if I am angry, it's like the weight of the whole room,
Everybody moves.
or like I'm stressed, you know? Yeah, it's like so unintentional, but it's like that, like you feed the fire, that and it gets big.
And if I made something and I was happy and joyful, it turned out beautiful and people wanted to eat it.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing goes into drink and celebration.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, part of that is too, like, I have a degree in anthropology. So for me, I think of, since the beginning of time, how important sharing meals was as a source of community, and connecting to nature and to the energy all around, especially if you're eating in season. And so that is a very just a sacred act in itself. It's symbolic. And like you said, when you do it with intention, but also you align the ingredients to that intention, and you can look up, herbalism and see how certain things influence things that have been researched. And also energetically, the folklore, personal experience, and I mean, just having a whole magical meal. I have to say, chefs are my favorite people because I love
Dude.
to give them drinks to taste. Like, it's just the best thing. They're so good at, like, when I need a taste tester, because I like to make sure that what I make is not just tasty to me. They're able to, like, say specific flavors, like, oh, I think basil would, like, balance that. I love
Mhm,
working with chefs for that
mhm.
reason. They're so great at, like, knowing what flavor, how it contributes with what's going on.
Yeah, that balance is really important.
Yeah.
In anything we cook or make. Wow. What is next for you?
Yeah. Well, we should definitely make a meal together sometime, clearly.
Oh yes, I'm
It sounds
coming.
like you make, especially if you do pastry, like, I have to tell you my weakness, like, talking of substance and substance abuse, like, not to equate that with more serious things, but I have a real sugar problem, so I have to, like, completely cut it out. And so, like, when I hear, like, pastry, I'm like, "Oh my god," like, that would just be, oh, like, we could do, like, a dessert cocktail with a pastry, or whatever you wanna, like,
Oh,
cook. Anyway, I get so excited about that, but, yeah, what's next for me is actually, I don't know other people's experience with being a writer. I have to say, like, in the metaphysical community, a lot of times people don't think about getting a book agent because, you know, they take a percentage, but the reality is having an agent is having someone on your side. So up until now, I haven't had a book agent, and it just makes it harder to work on your own, to put out the work that you want to put. And so I finally
right.
got a book agent, and so hopefully a couple of concepts are on the horizon. I can't speak until anything is official, but that's really what's next for me is doing more. I have so many ideas, like, I'd love to share with you right now. But working with a book agent to put those ideas out to be the best that they can be, and to really be something that people can utilize and need, as well as just continuing with my blog, putting on recipes there, offering services and all that. And yeah.
Julia, thank you. Thank you for coming on. And hopefully I'll have you back on one of my
Yeah.
podcasts soon.
Yes,
My new
I'd
one
love
coming
to.
out, Two Women in Tea with my best friend.
Oh,
So cheers, Julia, and I hope our
Nastrovia.
paths cross very soon, girl. We need to get together.
Yes, I love this. Bye. Thank you for having me. Lovely show.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Todd. Everybody have a good night, and I hope you had fun tonight. And please, Amazon, get her books. You'll love them. They're fun. Good night, Julia.
Good night.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.